This is CBC Vancouver News.
I'm so sorry.
Nearly 7 years after a massive fire devastated homes and businesses in White Rock, a suspect has been charged with arson.
We use a styrofoam head. Show me how he held you.
A Surrey clinic offers support to people who have been strangled, an injury experts say is often overlooked.
As a Black and Native person, like you're standing on the shoulders of your ancestors who have always been there for you.
And we speak with 3 women about being Black and Indigenous, lessons of strength, resilience, and culture. Good evening, thanks for joining us. A gay man in BC says he has received more hate after posting a video showing him and his partner being chased in downtown Vancouver several days ago. As the CBC's Zara Premji explains, advocates say a sudden uptick in online hate is feeling impossible to manage. And a warning for you, this story could be distressing for some viewers.
It was almost like, why me? Of all things, I really did feel safe. And now I'm kind of, I don't know if I still feel safe.
Jamie Pine and his partner were heading out for a night on the town last weekend in Vancouver. But moments after this photo, they were followed by a stranger on transit. They say he spewed homophobic and racial slurs at them and even chased them.
Oh my God, so much hatred.
My boyfriend just said run, and so we ran.
In a flurry of adrenaline, Pine took out his phone to try to defend himself. He hit record.
I don't want this in my country.
Get off my face.
He then posted it to social media, thinking it would help others feel like they're not alone. Instead,
The support is really great, but with all that support comes the negativity, and I've received quite a lot of that online.
online hate like this is what advocates say has forced a spike in calls for help.
People behind a keyboard feel like they can just say anything to anyone without any consequence.
Staff at this advocacy and support center say demand for their mental health support is the highest in 3 years, a 23% rise from last June to September.
We see a lot of pride all across the community and in the city during the summer months. Pride is something that needs to extend all around the year.
Pine says he wants haters to know a keyboard can't be your weapon.
The minute that they see you with somebody like another man, it could set them off. And it's really driven by the hate online and the echo chambers of people that just believe that we are not equal with them.
Pine says despite being harassed, other alleged victims of the same perpetrator have spoken up, and police say they're investigating. Advocates are also wanting transit police to be better educated about issues affecting queer community members, and to anyone feeling afraid.
In spite of this uptick in, anti-LGBTQ rhetoric, there is space here for our community.
Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
A man has been killed in a drug lab uncovered after a shooting in Abbotsford. Police say they were called to a home invasion with shots fired on Nicholson Avenue just after 4 this morning. When they arrived, they found a man dead and found the drug lab after searching his home. Police say his killing appears to be targeted. His death is the second fatal shooting in the Lower Mainland in less than a day. A 17-year-old boy was gunned down in Burnaby yesterday morning. A Good Samaritan has been sent to hospital after being stabbed trying to help a homeless man on Vancouver's Granville Street. Just a warning, some people may find part of this video distressing. The attack happened last month and was caught on video. Vancouver police are releasing it to try to help find the suspects. Police say the victim saw what he thought was 3 men trying to steal a homeless person's bag. When he tried to intervene, he was punched in the face and stabbed in the chest. The 30-year-old from New Westminster was taken to hospital with serious injuries, but has now been released. Those are the images of the suspects. If you recognize them, call police. A 24-year-old man has been charged with arson after a mammoth fire in the Five Corners area of White Rock nearly 7 years ago. In May 2016, the blaze swept through a condo building still under construction. It spread to nearby homes and businesses. The RCMP says it displaced more than 100 people and caused millions of dollars in damage. 2 men were arrested in July of 2021. The force says 7 charges have now been laid against James Adrian Dyer of Surrey. When it comes to intimate partner violence, strangulation is known as a serious indicator of escalating abuse and even death. It's why a strangulation clinic in Surrey is offering support to survivors. The CBC's Kuljeet Kaila has more on what's being done to address an injury which experts say has often been overlooked. And a warning, this story references physical and domestic abuse.
This room is a unique space to help with what could be a lethal situation for anyone facing violence.
They're being hit in the head, they might have concussions, they're being strangled, they might have some head and neck injuries. We needed a specialty clinic where this could be looked at and people could feel supported.
From full head and neck exams to conversations about mental health and sleep, patients get specialized care and treatment at the strangulation clinic and can describe their injuries with this.
We use a styrofoam head. Show me how he held you. 2 hands, arm lock, 1 hand up like this. It's a good way for me to know what I might be looking for or what injury might have occurred.
Experts say strangulation is a serious sign that violence is escalating.
And this gives me shivers even just saying it, is that people who've been strangled, primarily women, from their domestic partner are at 7 times risk of being killed by that partner in the future.
Fraser Health opened the clinic because of increased reports of strangulation. In a health authority research analysis of 405 intimate partner violence patients at the Surrey Memorial Hospital, strangulation happened in 55% of cases. Experts say strangulation has often been overlooked because the injuries can be invisible, whereas other violence like hits to the head and face can be more obvious.
And so what we're seeing here is when we follow up with these patients, they've got every symptom of a concussion.
And if concussions and strangulation are repetitive, researchers say there can be long-term health impacts.
It likely will lead to longer-term neurodegenerative disorders like dementia and Alzheimer's disease, or what we see in contact sport athletes.
This advocate says more resources like the strangulation clinic are needed. She's working to help train future doctors on dealing with violence.
There's very little information that's provided to physicians about intimate partner violence or injury, and so traumatic brain injury is something that we're discussing.
But it's not always easy for victims or survivors to access medical care.
It shouldn't surprise anybody that abusive partners don't want injured women to go to the hospital, actually. And if they do, they are there and very carefully observing what the partner is saying or not saying.
McDougall says it's important for victims to have a safety plan with transition homes or crisis lines. Knowledge and awareness, she says, can go a long way in treating and preventing injuries that can be lethal. Kuljeet Kaila, CBC News, Surrey.
If you or someone you know is affected by intimate partner violence, you can find support at the website on the screen, endingviolence.org. If your situation is urgent, you're asked to call 911. To other news now, travel delays and power outages hit thousands of British Columbians tonight as strong wind battered the south coast. While most of those outages have been restored, it wasn't the case for ferries. The CBC's Saurabh Sandhu was at the Tsawwassen terminal earlier today.
Lots of confusion at the Tsawwassen ferry terminal as passengers struggle to keep up with the changing ferry schedule due to the extreme weather conditions. BC Ferries has issued a travel advisory due to the strong wind gusts from 60 to 90 kilometers per hour. Already 2 sailings between Horseshoe Bay and Departure Bay have been cancelled.
I traveled from Burnaby. It wasn't that bad there, but the moment I came up on the ferry terminal side, it's really bad. I understand why they're not sailing.
Worried passengers that we spoke to tonight were looking to make emergency hotel arrangements in case their ferry sailings get cancelled. Many others were not sure if they will make it tonight or not.
It was definitely a little rough. I'm heading over for an Irish dance competition, so we were hoping things wouldn't get cancelled. And yeah, we found parking. Luckily, we got a ferry. So we're looking at Tsawwassen for hotels.
BC Ferries is advising the passengers to check the website for latest on ferry schedules. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Tsawwassen.
More than $23 million is being spent to help reduce risk from climate-related emergencies in several BC communities.
Projects like risk mapping, increasing public education, purchasing monitoring equipment, and performing small-scale structural improvements.
49 First Nations and local governments will receive funding. Some of that is going to the Fraser Valley, where floods devastated the region in the fall of 2021.
Right here in Chilliwack, the funding will go towards designing upgrades to the Chilliwack Creek Drainage Pump Station, which serves as a critical component of the community's flood protection system.
The money will also go to a new dike on the Coldwater River in Merritt. A Vancouver woman is trying to reunite a bag filled with old photos with its owner. Maybe you recognize them. Have a look. Marilyn Lemon says she was walking by her driveway where she'd been gardening when she noticed a small black tote half buried in the ground. Inside, she found that old tennis racket, 2 stuffed animals, and some very interesting photos.
By some weird coincidence, I've been sorting through my old family photos and thinking, these are really weird. I don't know why I can't part with them. I just need to have them, you know? And it just seems like something, yeah, let's not let them get wet. I don't know. And then when I posted it on the neighborhood Facebook page, people said, oh, this is wonderful, you're doing this. We're like more than 70 replies to that post saying, oh, I hope you find the person, I hope you find them, you know.
Now, if you think these photos belong to you, or perhaps you know someone or you recognize somebody, you can contact us at CBC News Vancouver at cbc.ca, CBC News Vancouver at cbc.ca. Black History Month is a time to honor Black Canadians and their communities, from their pursuit of equity and justice to celebrating cultural richness. But we often don't hear about the experiences of people of the Afro-Indigenous community. The CBC's Angela Starrett spoke with 3 Black Indigenous women to talk about the intertwining of their identities and what this month means to them.
This is my mom here, and this is my grandfather, and they're both Black Native.
3 years ago, Tiara Cash moved from the U.S. to Coquitlam to pursue a PhD. Her great-grandmother on her mother's side was Chata and Chalagi, also known as Choctaw and Cherokee. Her great-grandfather on her mother's side was also Chata. They were both also Black. But around the 1830s, the U.S.'s one-drop rule meant
if you had any percentage of Black within you, or you had Black relatives, you were reclassified. So you were either reclassified as white or you were reclassified as Black.
The one-drop rule was outlawed in 1967, but its ripple effects have been far-reaching.
I always knew I was Indigenous growing up, but it's only been in the last, half decade that I've really been able to really find community and to really be able to do ceremony and really be able to have conversations around this.
And despite belonging to a Black community, Cash says her exact African ancestry has been difficult to locate because of a lack of documentation during forced migration through enslavement.
One of the hard things about being Black American is that you don't really have much information on where your people come from. You know that there was a stealing that happened of your ancestors from West Africa. And if you're lucky, you can trace 1 or 2 of those ancestors back to Africa. I was able to trace one of them.
For generations, her ancestors have been living in Mississippi, North Carolina, and Tennessee.
Most of what I know about being Black is being Black American. It's generations and generations and generations of people who have been in America since the beginning of, its founding.
While the identities of Black and Indigenous people have been systemically erased, for Tiara and others, those lineages are also defined by resilience, resistance, and reclamation.
This is actually my first time seeing it in person.
It's a sentiment illustrated in this Vancouver mural by Squamish and Namgis artist James Harry and Japanese Trinidadian Lauren Brevner.
This is something 5-year-old me would have loved to see.
A representation she carries in her body.
I'm so proud of my ancestors. I have beautiful, strong Wet'suwet'en and Gitxsan ancestors who advocated for me before they even knew I existed.
Her mother survived day school, and her dad, who was Black from Texas, also survived oppressive and violent government policies of the day.
My dad went to segregated schools, and I know my grandmother also grew up in Jim Crow South and had experienced severe racism and segregation.
She says both sides fought for social justice so she can live safely in the world today. It's something Taylor McCarthy sees too.
My ancestors who fought hard and never gave up.
McCarthy was raised in Tacoma, Washington by her late father, who was Black from Charlotte, North Carolina. At 18, McCarthy moved to the Capilano Reserve with her Squamish mother.
For the reason that we have our songs and dances, for the reasons that I can go to a restaurant as a Black woman, as a Black person in general, I can have a job and I can be in the military. I have a bachelor's degree. It's because of all of my ancestors on both my Black and my Native side.
This Black History Month, she has a message for Black and Indigenous people.
As a Black and Native person, like you're standing on the shoulders of your ancestors who have always been there for you.
Angela Starrett, CBC News, Vancouver.
I think we had to be resourceful and find ways to create joy.
Celebrating Black music, singer Dawn Pemberton talks about soul next. And hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream. Thanks for being here. A Prince Edward Island rideshare app is doing better than its founders expected. It's called Carry, similar to Uber, where people can book a ride online. It comes at a time when that province is dealing with a shortage of taxis. Laura Meter has more.
You might not notice this driver picking up a passenger. The ride was booked through a company called Carry, through an app on a phone.
Go to the one Capote Road, right?
Yep. Yeah. Drivers have been very busy lately.
We're doing about 1,500 to 1,800 rides every week.
The people who created the PEI rideshare service say they didn't expect the passenger numbers they're seeing now.
I didn't think, 2 years ago that we would be even close to where we are at now with respect to how many people we have using the service, but people are noticing and people are recognizing it and using the app. And
the company's numbers are growing at the same time there's a shortage of taxis. It's an issue for the Charlottetown Airport, the tourism industry, and locals too. This taxi business says it's not concerned about competition, but it needs drivers and is hoping government will help attract them.
Well, I'm hoping I can get some kind of response from transportation or tourism to get some help with, get them subsidized somehow.
Joe Corrigan says the cost of insurance is keeping drivers away. The Tourism Industry Association says people need to be able to travel around the province, so they need options like Carry.
COVID really impacted our taxi service, our transportation, just in general. So having that app and having that service like Carry has become very, very important for us on Prince Edward Island.
The Charlottetown Airport used to have more than 100 taxis coming here. There is less than half that now. It has put up signs to let passengers know about the rideshare app.
I do believe it's needed. I believe it's needed because it's an alternative. I believe it's needed because it's sort of an expectation now of passengers when they travel.
Carry currently operates in the areas around Charlottetown, Stratford, and Cornwall, and it's hoping to expand into other island communities and New Brunswick as well. Laura Meter, CBC News, Charlottetown.
February is Black History Month, and this month we're highlighting the voices of prominent Black musicians and performers, hearing about the music they love and how it moves them. Each Saturday this month on CBC Radio 1, they'll be sharing their favorites, playing everything from gospel to hip-hop to Afrofuturism. First up, singer Dan Pemberton on soul.
My name is Dawn Pemberton. I am a singer, performer, actor, radio host, and choir director. Revelations is a celebration of Black music. I am one of 4 hosts, and I will be playing some great, inspiring music all about soul. Soul music is varied and vast, just like human beings are. I think soul music is a medicine. I think all music created by Black people is a medicine because we had to endure a lot of oppression and violence, and I think we had to be resourceful and find ways to create joy and healing in our lives. One of my all-time favorite songs, and the song that speaks to me from this collection of songs that I picked, is called Rise by Corey Henry and the Funk Apostles. All my people singing, we gonna rise. It's just, when I press play, the beat right away gets me grooving, gets my body engaged, and it's really hopeful. It's really this song all about persevering and rising to the top. Another song that I'm really looking forward to sharing with listeners is a song called Fight For Me by a young artist named Bukola.
I've got to fight this fight on my own. No one can fight it for me.
She is a fantastic singer, guitar player, songwriter. I'm just really impressed by, her vision and her talent, and I just really think more people need to hear her. I really have to say I really love Say Something.
You better beg, plead, just tell me that you need me. Oh, so you gotta say something.
It's kind of like an anthem for speaking your mind and really speaking your truth and my truth. And it feels good to sing. When I sing it, I feel really powerful, and I like to ignite people. I think I want people in my audience, Black people in my audiences, to feel like they are seen. I want them to know that I see them, I see you. You're important, you are special, you are magical, you can take up space, you deserve to be here, and there is space for you in this world. So grab it, claim it.
A windy South Coast day, and we're staring at a lot of rain in the few days. Next, Kuljeet Kaila will have your BC-wide forecast after this.
The Hotel Europe in its heyday, the turn of the century. The wedge-shaped hotel was built by Angelo Calori in 1908. For years, Calori's pride and joy was considered the best commercial building in the core of a young Vancouver. But when the center of the city moved further west, the Hotel Europe became a dingy, skid road rooming house, home to some of Vancouver's least desirable tenants. In the late 60s, the face of Gastown changed again in a great renewal, and the Europe once again became the big eye-catcher. But there were still no major renovations inside the building, and it remained a far cry from the classy hotel built half a century before. Finally, last summer, Vancouver City Council voted to shut the Europe down. The sad condition of the hotel, the subject of a story by CBC reporter John Daly and cameraman Ross Kenward. They were thrown out by the manager.
I'm going to break everything. Get up. Don't touch that,
The closure forced 20 tenants to find new homes.
To me, it was just my little hole in the wall, my little burrow, my little nest, so to speak, and that's all.
And the end of a dream for then-owner Suzanne Van Edgemont.
I just always wanted to see it done into a turn-of-the-century hotel. I love architectural and old buildings, and I like to see them preserved.
But what appeared to be a grim twist of fate for the landmark building has turned into its salvation. 2 government agencies have bought the Europe for $1.35 million. In 2 weeks, $2 million of renovations will begin to turn the shabby, tired old hotel into a comfortable and pleasant home for both low and average income families. It's a huge job, as observed by Howard Addison, the contractor, and John Gordon, coordinator of the operation. First, a tour of the downstairs, what used to be the hotel's main attraction, the beer parlor.
I think it'll lend itself to an excellent retailing, merchandising enterprise.
The rooms along this corridor are dismally run down, many strewn with the relics of years and of tenants gone by.
Generally, it'll have a repaint, and over here, there's going to be a new kitchen area put in. This is going to be the living room. Of course, it'll be recarpeted, and it'll be modestly furnished.
What about the graffiti on the walls? You got some pretty wild graffiti.
Sure.
We'll just cover them up.
You don't think your new tenants would enjoy it?
I don't think so. I don't think they didn't appreciate it one bit.
It won't be a luxury development by any means, but it'll be very affordable, and it'll be very pleasant to live in.
An appropriate 9 months from now, the new improved Hotel Europe opens her doors to her new tenants. Deborah Sweeney, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On March 2nd, join CBC Vancouver's Michelle Elliott and a panel of top UBC experts at the UBC Med Talks, a hybrid event on the topic of healthy aging. Register at alumni.ubc.ca and never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
A busy weather weekend across our giant province, and Kuljeet Kaila is here to tell us what's happening. Bit stormy out there.
Yes, stormy with lots of warnings that were issued throughout the day. We've got snow warnings, winter warnings, as well as wind warnings along the coast. And for parts of Vancouver Island, which means lots of cancellations for ferries that we saw for the North and the Peace River region in my hometown, 30 centimeters of snow overnight into tomorrow morning. The Fraser Canyon Sunshine Coast also seeing some warnings as well. 15 centimeters of snow tonight for the Coquihalla Highway. So warnings there for drivers, winds up to 90 kilometers an hour for the Sunshine Coast and East Vancouver Island. So some pretty treacherous conditions. Now with more snow and winter weather, we see avalanche warnings increase. We've gone from considerable to high for most of the Caribou region into the Kootenays as well as the southern interior and along the north coast as well. And that just happened in the last few hours. The 7-day forecast, the long-range forecast, lots of rain on the way, especially for this weekend. 15 millimeters on Saturday, another 10 on Sunday, up to 25 to kick off the week on Monday. The rain sticks around for a couple more days, and then we finally flip to a little bit of sunshine with clouds on Wednesday, more sun for Thursday and Friday, and that's when things start to dry out. We're going to see that pattern continue for a few more days after that, heading into Valentine's Day week.
Okay, so stay safe outside, stay dry inside.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Kuljeet.
You're welcome.
That is your late news for Friday. Thank you for joining us tonight on this busy week. For news anytime, please check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is tomorrow morning at 6:30 on CBC Radio 1, and Leanne Young will have your late local news tomorrow night here in the chair at 10:30. So good night, enjoy the weekend, please stay safe.